Let's talk about vaccines. Vaccinations help prevent the infection and the spread of different diseases. But before we can understand how vaccines work, we have to understand how the immune system works. When a virus or a pathogen enters our body, our immune system starts to work to eliminate the virus and to keep us healthy. Our bodies have different defense mechanisms to protect us from pathogens. There are physical barriers, our innate immune system, and our adaptive immune system. This chart represents the different aspects throughout the process of an infection. The orange line represents the viral load. This is the amount of living virus within the person's body. You can see that this is the highest at first, but it decreases after a few days. This is because the immune system is working hard to kill the pathogen. The pink line on the chart represents innate immunity. Innate immunity is a non-specific immune response to a foreign pathogen. This reaction starts as soon as the pathogen enters the body and proceeds to destroy all foreign invaders. It causes non-specific symptoms of illness, such as a fever. You can see that the innate immune response starts acting immediately, with its peak response between days 0 to 7 after the pathogen exposure. The blue line on the graph represents adaptive immunity. The adaptive immune response is activated when the innate immune response is unable to kill the foreign invader on its own. As you can see on the graph, it is not an immediate response. It occurs after 7 days, however, its effects are long-lasting. Let's talk about the differences between the innate immune response and the adaptive immune response. The innate immune response occurs between days 1 to 7 after the pathogen enters the body, whereas the adaptive immune response occurs between days 7 to 14. The innate immune response is nonspecific. The adaptive immune response specifically targets the virus. The innate immune response has no memory. The adaptive immune response does. The innate immune response is short-term, whereas the adaptive immune response produces antibodies to give us long-lasting immunity. Different cells in our immune system play different roles to protect us. Phagocytes are killer cells that digest cells as a part of the innate and adaptive immune system. Lymphocytes are white blood cells that can be classified as T cells or B cells. There are two types of T cells, regulatory T cells and cytotoxic T cells. Regulatory T cells activate B cells and cytotoxic T cells, whereas cytotoxic T cells work to kill cells that have been infected with the pathogen. B cells bump into the pathogen that they recognize, then they generate antibodies that can flag the pathogen and create memory cells. The cell-mediated immune response is controlled by T cells. B cells control the humoral immune response by producing antibodies. Antibodies are little proteins that flag the invader so that phagocytes are alerted and go and kill them. So how do vaccines kill the virus? Vaccines work by triggering antibody production in our bodies without actually giving us the illness. Different vaccines have different mechanisms of doing this, but they all produce antibodies and memory cells for long-lasting immunity. Let's look at the types of vaccines. 5 vaccines contain a weakened form of the pathogen. These offer the most protection because it most closely resembles an actual infection with the virus. Inactivated vaccines contain an inactive form of the pathogen. These are safer than live vaccines because they can't get you sick, however, they are less effective. Subunit vaccines contain a part of the pathogen. These can be difficult to develop because scientists need to find a part of the pathogen that will elicit a good immune response. Toxoid vaccines contain inactivated toxins that have been released by different bacteria. These are then injected to elicit an immune response. Conjugate vaccines contain a combination of 2 antigens. This is used when the disease-specific antigen is not strong enough to be used alone, so the combination creates a stronger response. Now on to the newer vaccines. mRNA vaccines contain the instructions of how to make the antigen. This means they tell your body to make the antigen that triggers the immune response. Viral vector vaccines work in a similar way, where they carry the DNA coding for the antigen, and then your body makes the antigen and elicits the immune response. We've been using these new technologies to fight COVID-19. Pfizer and Moderna are mRNA vaccines, and AstraZeneca is a viral vector vaccine. mRNA and viral vector vaccines give the cells a recipe to follow. The final outcome of the recipe is the creation of the antigen. Once the antigen is made, antibodies are created by B cells. These attach to the antigen and trigger the destruction of those. All 3 vaccines create the spike protein. The spike protein is a classic spike seen on the COVID-19 virus. This is why our 3 vaccines have been deemed interchangeable. They have the same mechanism. This is also part of the reason these were developed so quickly. The spike protein was already heavily researched, so scientists were able to identify this as a target quickly. The other reason is because, unlike traditional vaccines, scientists don't need to grow the virus. Once the DNA sequence of COVID-19 was uploaded, researchers were able to start working immediately. That's great, but how does that protect me? Great question. When B cells come into contact with the virus next time, they rapidly produce antibodies that flag the virus so that your cells know to kill it. The end result is less severe symptoms of the disease or immunity to the disease due to quick elimination from the body. But I'm healthy, why do I need to get the vaccine? It's important for healthy people to be vaccinated because while they might not get as sick, they could still be a carrier. This means they could infect someone else with the disease who might be at a greater risk of becoming very ill. By getting vaccinated, you are protecting yourself and others from getting sick. This leads to something called herd immunity. You can think of herd immunity like a forest fire. If the fire starts on one side of the forest, it's going to continue until it can't reach any more trees. However, there might be something in the way of it reaching other trees. This could be something like a river. The fire will continue to spread until it reaches this river. However, if the river isn't wide enough and it can still reach the other trees, they will light on fire as well, and the whole forest will burn. However, if the river is wide enough, the trees on the other side of the river are protected. The river is like people who are vaccinated. By getting vaccinated, you're preventing the spread of the disease. This is why it's so important for young and healthy people to get the vaccines as well. 95% of the population must be vaccinated in order for herd immunity to protect those who cannot receive the vaccine. So why can't some people get it? That's a great question. Thankfully, there are not very many people who wouldn't be able to get the vaccine. Some reasons why some people might not be able to get it include having an allergy to a component in the vaccine, currently having COVID-19, a person under 12 years old, or a person who has had another vaccine in the last 2 weeks. The vaccines for COVID-19 require 2 doses. This is because the second dose of the vaccine dramatically increases the antibody production. The second dose increases the T-cell mediated response, making your immune system stronger for a longer period of time. It's important to remember that you are not immune right after you get the vaccine. It takes time for our immune system to build a defense against the virus. It's like working out. When you start working out, you won't see results right away. It takes weeks of training for results to be seen. When you get the vaccines, your immune system starts training itself. It's only after a few weeks that our immune system is ready to fight. Vaccines have prevented so many illnesses from spreading, such as polio, tuberculosis, diphtheria, and pertussis. We are lucky to have such great technology that can prevent us from getting sick. I hope now you have a better understanding of how vaccines work and why they are important for everyone to get. Thank you for watching.